Reggie Miller will be on the call tonight in Dallas, Game 4, Western Conference Finals, Timberwolves and the Mavericks. Tip-off time is 8:30 Eastern on TNT. Reg will be with Kevin Harlan, Stan Van Gundy, and Allie LaForce. Great to see you, Reg. We were just talking about best scoring backcourts, NBA history. Stan Van Gundy brought this up. You got a reaction. You were like, whoa, is this the best scoring backcourt in NBA history with Luca and Kyrie?
And let me clarify exactly what he said. The best offensive, like you said, scoring. Throw either one of them the ball, and they can go win you the ball game. And I agree with him. Others that are in the conversation, because we brought this up to the studio guys, and they were absolutely destroying Coach Van Gundy on this assessment. Because obviously Draymond said Stephen and Clay. And we're like, whoa, Steph, yes. You're just not throwing the ball to Clay and say, go win me a ball game. Though he's had huge games, but you're not throwing him the ball like Kyrie and Luca. So Isaiah and Joe comes into the conversation in terms of scoring the basketball, but I don't think they're scoring it at such a high clip like Luca and Kyrie. Earl the Pearl and Clyde maybe. But after that, Dan, I couldn't think of anyone else. So to answer your question, yes, I am in agreement with Coach. The best offensive scoring duo in basketball history. Yes, we're not saying the best duo, the best offensive scoring duo. Yes.
Okay, could I have LeBron and Kyrie in Cleveland as my?
LeBron's a power forward. He's not a guard. He's a power forward. No, he handles the ball.
He's listed as a power forward.
He's listed as power forward. We're talking Luca is the point guard and Kyrie's the shooting guard on this Dallas team.
Okay.
They're listed as point guard and shooting guard.
Why did LeBron want to get listed as a power forward or a three and center one year?
I think probably to show his talents. And he's not really a power forward either. I think when it goes down, when he's going into the Hall of Fame, I think he's going to go in as a small forward.
Okay.
When you think of LeBron James, I think of him as him and Larry Bird to me are the greatest small forwards of all time. He's not a power forward. He's a power forward in today's game and at 21 years in the league. But in his heyday, he's a small forward.
All right, let me turn our attention to tonight's game. If you were Karl Anthony Towns' teammate or coach, what would you say to him?
Don't listen to all the noise, because there's a lot of it right now, and continue to try to get to your spots and your shots. He's struggling right now, right? Let's face it. And it very well could be a sweep if he doesn't find his shot. I'm going to throw some numbers out at you for if Minnesota wants to continue this series and get it back to Minnesota. Anthony Edwards has got to have 35 plus, 8 and 8. Karl Anthony Towns has to have just 25 and 15. All right, 60 between the two of them. If they can get to that number, to me, that means that number one, they're scoring the basketball, but that means Dallas is going to have to double them at some point in time. And Jaden Daniels will get off a little bit. Mike Conley, who's played well the last two games, will continue to eat. But if Anthony doesn't get 35 plus, if Cat doesn't get 25 plus, then this series is going to be over. But if I'm Karl Anthony Towns, you've got to block out the noise because you're in the Final Four situation and things get highlighted a little bit more and you are struggling. But he's got to stop settling for threes, Theodore, right? When he got going, it was when he was driving the basketball and he got a couple layups going. But he's settling for too many threes, and they are not falling for him.
Yeah, when they let you shoot a three, that should be a subtle.
They're telling you something.
Yes.
You're open for a reason.
Yeah, go ahead. If you had your pick, though, game on the line, Luca or Kyrie with the ball, who would you take?
Wow. Ooh. We've seen them both be successful in this role.
Yeah, but you're Jason Kidd. You're drawing up a play. Game on the line tonight.
I'm probably going to go with Luca because he plays at such a unique pace. It's very difficult for you to block his shot. And it's especially when he's going to that step back three that we saw in game 2 for the game winner. You're not blocking that. So I would probably go with Luca, but it would be probably more entertaining to have the ball in Kyrie's hands and to see the handles. Both would be fun. Very much the same way that left-hand game winner against Denver this regular season. Both have shown that they can produce in the biggest moments. That's why they are the best offensive duo in NBA history.
See, I would love to see Kyrie because then I know Anthony Edwards would be guarding him. So I would it would be, I don't know.
The best of both worlds, yeah.
Yeah, who's guarding Luca? Like, okay, you're going to have somebody, but I know.
You could have Anthony Edwards on Luca too. I know Jaden McDaniels has kind of been the guy that's supposed to be guarding him most of the time, but Ant has guarded him in very small stretches in this series.
Talking to Reggie Miller, he's on the call tonight. Game 4, Western Conference Finals, Timberwolves and the Mavericks. Timberwolves getting 2. I feel like Minnesota is going to win this game. I don't know why. Probably no reason to think that, but that's what happens with these crazy scenarios. What do you think?
Well, let me just say this: it's very difficult to beat a team 4 times in a row. We just saw it last night with the Celtics beating Indiana 4 straight. But come playoff times, you don't look at it like there's no way we're going to lose 4 in a row because each game in a series takes on a life of its own. And tonight, again, I threw out those numbers. Those 2 guys have to play well, and they have to play well on the road. And Anthony Edwards did a lot of that in the fourth quarter in the second half. It was the reason why they took the lead. It's just Cat didn't come along for the ride. They both have to play well on the road for them to force this game back to Minnesota. If one is on and the other is not, I don't think they have enough.
Yeah.
Especially the way Kyrie and Luca have been dominating the fourth quarter. But I say one thing, they do have a silver lining. Derek Lively not playing tonight is a huge boost for Minnesota because he has been absolutely destroying them. He's been the silent killer for them on the offensive glass, blocking shots, being a facilitator when they double those 2 guys. Him not being in the game is an advantage for Minnesota. Let's see if they can take advantage of it.
All right, Boston sweeps. It wasn't that easy, but they do sweep. What stands out as Boston moves on?
Let me say this about the Boston Celtics. Drew Holiday and Derek White, it's almost unfair. Seriously, those 2 dudes do every single little thing that impact winning. And they take the temperature of their team, whatever their team will need that night. I know all the headlines go to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and rightfully so. Those two gets done. They're the all-stars. Brown was the Eastern Conference MVP. I get it. But this team, the bread and butter, to me, is Holiday and White. Those guys, they do everything. Almost to the point, if I was an Eastern Conference team, I'm serious. I don't know when Derek White's contract is up. I would offer him the max so Boston cannot sign. They can't sign everyone. He is that good, man. He does everything. They do everything. It's almost not fair. It really isn't.
Do you think Jaylen Brown, does he think this is his team? I know we give credit to Jason Tate. It's almost like Jaylen Brown. I hear it in his voice.
You kind of heard it when he was on the dais talking about, I never win anything. Because most of the shine does go to Jason Tatum. He gets all the commercials. He's, a brand Jordan. And, he gets all that.
But the mentality, though, to be the man. Does Jason Tatum...
It's a little bit different.
Okay.
Night in and night out, when you're the Mark Man, and we're finding that in Anthony Edwards. Look, just 10 days ago, we were saying he was Michael Jordan. He's a cross between Kobe, Dwayne Wade. I was throwing that out. Let's stop it, right? It's the difference when you've got to be the man and you've got to shine when the lights are the brightest. And both Tatum and Brown have done that. They've had their moments. Who cares whose team it is? Right now, their main objective should be winning a championship, and they're 4 games away from that. But they are loaded. And truthfully, I know Porzingis is on the clock and he's going to be back at some point in the NBA Finals. I hope that doesn't mess up chemistry. They are playing that good. Al Horford, this is probably the best we've seen Al Horford over the last
Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, Mr. Horford. Future Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Al Horford. This is probably the best he has played and shot over the last 4 or 5 years. Right now, chemistry is at all-time high. The Celtics, the team to beat. But I will say this. If it is Dallas, they've got 2 nuclear weapons waiting on them. But the problem with Dallas is Boston has a lot of guys that can defend those 2 dudes.
Yeah, you got Holiday and you got Derek White who, they can play a little defense.
And if you remember the 2 regular season games that were played between Dallas, and again, Dallas has to finish business tonight. Let me get this out. There's no script. Minnesota can still come back, but it's highly unlikely. It's never been done. But if it is Dallas, if you remember the 2 regular season games, Jaylen Brown put on a clinic versus Doncic. So go back and watch those games, and he made it kind of personal. So that would be a fun matchup to watch if it is Dallas and Boston.
32 after the hour, which seems appropriate. That was Bill Walton's number, 32, at least when he was playing at UCLA, I believe. And when you were a kid, how aware were you of UCLA with Bill Walton?
I think everyone was aware of UCLA. I mean, growing up in Riverside, Bruins were everything for us on KTLA Channel 5. That's all we used to watch was the Bruins. So for me to be fortunate to have an opportunity to play for UCLA and have those legends come back and give us clinics, speeches, life lessons. Bill was always the first one in the gym. And at that time, he was playing for the Celtics by the time I got to UCLA. So it was those bitter rivalries between the Lakers and the Celtics, and he was a part of that. And to have him come back and work with Surfing Jack Haley and Stuart Gray and Kenny Fields, and just to have because we wanted to know, like, what was it really like in those locker rooms and on the court when Magic and Bird, and it was cool to hear those stories. And our friendship kind of grew even more so once Larry Bird became our coach in Indiana, because he was around all the time then, because he was also working with NBC during those mid-'90s as well. So we've had a great relationship. It's a sad day in Bruin Nation, but we know he's in a better place. We know we have guardian angels, and he lived life to the fullest. I mean, that's kind of all what you want. You want a full life where people loved you. You did what you love to do. He was success at every level he played at.
And he was not, it's weird to be intense on the floor, but off the floor, he was not. Yeah. And I don't understand, act like Troy Polamalu. He would come on the show and he'd have this very soft voice, and he'd go out there and he'd take somebody's head off. And you'd be like, and Bill would be out there and be really intense, and then he'd be off the floor and he'd be, Bob Dylan, and he'd be singing songs. And I don't know. I mean, some guys can turn it off when they get off the floor. But was Jordan like that? I mean, Jordan was intense off, right?
Jordan had that aura, still does. Look, with Bill, he knew what basketball meant to him, and what, you talk about Bob Dylan and, how about the Grateful Dead and Jerry Garcia, who, he was a deadhead and followed them around. He was a groupie. And he knew that, yes, basketball was just a small part of my life. There's so many other things. It's funny because recently, over the last 10 years, he and I really bonded over two wheels. He was a huge cyclist enthusiast as well as I am. And a lot of our times was spent on bikes, mileage, training plans. So there were so many layers to Bill: basketball, musician, cyclist, activist. People forget, he got in a lot of hot water back at UCLA, words about the Vietnam War and, sticking up for the vets and things like that. So there was lots of layers to him, and he was very unique. And it came across as an unbelievable broadcaster as well. So yes, he will be missed, but he will definitely never be forgotten.
That feeling of getting swept or losing at the buzzer in the final game of a series. Like if I said you could get swept or you lose in dramatic fashion, game 7 at the buzzer.
I would probably want to be swept, because if I lose at game 7 at the buzzer, there's so many. To this day, Theodore, I still think about some games, game 7s. If I coulda, woulda, shoulda, we should have done this. I should have done that. With more, I should have done this. So to be swept, that's under the rug, and you move on, you get another chance. When you lose those game 7s or game 6s at the buzzer and another team advances, look, it's how many years have I been out? 20 plus years, and I'm still thinking about a lot of games. So I'd much rather be swept than lose at the buzzer or a tight game, because the if I coulda, woulda, shouldas, they just gnaw at you.
Yeah, but if I get swept, we had no chance. I'm in it to win it, and if I get crushed at the buzzer, I at least got to the buzzer.
I will say this about my beloved Pacers: they can say all they want, and they spend it very well, but they never recovered from game 1.
Yeah,
they gift wrapped that game 1. You can't be up 3 with the ball, 10 seconds left, and lose the game. You can't. Coming into game 2, we're moving past that. We know we can play with them, but we got to keep the pace up. They never recovered from that. And you can't gift wrap games in the playoffs and expect to get them back. They easily could have won game 3 at home. Should have won game 4 last night at home. But the better team won, and that's why we're all getting ready for Cancun together.
What is it like, though, when somebody's getting the ball, game's on the line, and there's really nothing you could do?
As a player,
you
kind of loved it, because they're pretty much at your mercy. I've been on the flip side of that too, going to get some unbelievable players like Kobe and MJ, Joe Dumars back in the day when his bad boy Pistons. There's just really nothing. You're hoping for the best, but bad things happen to good people sometimes. Right? I consider myself a good person at times.
I just can't imagine. Kobe's got the ball, and he's gonna shoot. You know it.
The game 4, when Shaq fouled out, and we're thinking yes, because it was 2-1. Yes, because we had no answer for Shaq. 0. Fouled out. We got this. And that damn kid, he turned into, Kobe. There was nothing I could do. So yes, I have felt that.
Sorry, sorry I brought that up.
Yeah, see, why are you doing
sorry.
that?
And didn't you take Jordan's Bulls to a game 7? Was that 1997 maybe?
And yes, we did. Yes, we did. And here's the thing. Going into that, this is how cocky, I've told you this. We were cocky enough to saying, we want to retire MJ. That was our motto. And the play that changed everything, jump ball, we're up 6. It's Rick Smits and Scottie Pippen. They win the jump ball. Scottie wins it, gets the ball to Kerr, hits a three, and it goes downhill after that. It's little things. Yeah. Why do I remember this, and why are you making me relive this? I don't know, but it's those. That's why I say I'd much rather be swept, because who can? And plus Indiana was a 6 seed. Boston has the overall best record. They were supposed to beat them. Maybe not a sweep, but they were supposed to win. I'm reliving the Bulls all the time. Though that jump ball, like if we could have won that, score, gone up 8 or 9. Jesus, Theodore.
Hope you have a great day.
Oh, yes. It'll be really great preparing for this.
Ask Van Gundy tonight. Who would he rather have the ball in the hands of, game on the line between Luca and Kyrie?
On the telecast.
Yeah.
You mark my word.
Okay. Yeah.
On the telecast. That will come up. I want to hear his answer.
All right. We'll be watching. Thanks, bud. Talk to you next week.
I appreciate you.
All right. That's Reggie Aloysius Miller. I'm bringing up all these bad scenarios there.